Hansen. My name is Chuck Hansen. I'm going to be your co-host along with my buddy Michael Stern, who is going to present the future. And Michael and I have been friends for some 30 odd years, and it wasn't but about a little over a year ago that he threw this whole idea over to me and said, "Hey, what do you think about this?" And I didn't have a clue what he was talking about. But the good news is that you guys are going to get to hear everything tonight. So if you're brand new and you're just looking at iHub for the very first time, congratulations and welcome. And we're going to go through and give you as much information as we possibly can in about 30 minutes. So hang on and take it away, Michael, anytime you're ready.
All right, let's see here. Get situated. All right, well, hey, thanks a lot, Chuck. Hey, welcome everybody. As Chuck mentioned, my name is Michael Stern. I'm here in Arizona, and I want to welcome you to iHub Global. If you're looking at this for the first time or the first couple of times, I want to welcome you to what I believe is a very exciting financial future. So as Chuck mentioned, it was about 13 months or so ago where I was talking with a colleague and he sort of dropped a leading question about owning a piece of the world's largest wireless network. And I was a little intrigued by it. I said, well, tell me more. And I found that it had to do with something called the Internet of Things, also known as IoT. I had heard a little bit about it. I think I actually watched a TED Talk. But frankly, I really didn't have a clue of what it was all about. In fact, I think I was really far off base from what I thought about it. But nonetheless, I was intrigued by the concept. After doing a lot of investigation, I got to the point where I wanted to bounce the idea off of somebody. I gave Chuck a call and said, "Hey, Chuck, what do you know about this Internet of Things?" And he's like, "Never heard of it." And so we started asking people, well, what do you know about this Internet of Things? And Chuck talked to a guy that owned a vending machine company, and he responded that he knew all about it because all of his vending machines were connected to the internet. They were all placing their own orders to resupply the inventory of that machine. And he explained how great it was that the person physically doing it only had to look at their iPad and know precisely what to take to each one. And I thought, when I heard that, I thought, you know what, that is a very, very real world practical application about something that was very kind of nebulous to me about these Internet of Things devices. And then as I started going back and looking at it, I realized that that was just one example of countless other examples with different types of technology that could output some information to make some process more convenient, cost-effective, or efficient. And as we started looking into it, I was pretty astonished that the Internet of Things marketplace was already an $800 billion a year industry with some 8.4 billion devices connected to the internet, more devices connected than people connected. Devices, for instance, including that guy's vending machine. So it was really shocking that there was so much going on, but even more so by the end of the decade, it's expected to be over $2.4 trillion with some 70 to 80 billion devices connected. So it was a pretty astonishing market, but that in itself was interesting, but it didn't really get me, to the point where I'm like, well, let's really do something with this. And this was what I was doing prior to reaching out to Chuck. I started investigating this company that's actually putting together this world's largest wireless network. Now, they're called Helium Systems. They're based in San Francisco, and they got their start back in 2013 after a couple of really forward thinking. In fact, a couple of guys that are considered creative disruptors that have really brought forth really amazing ideas that have disrupted other types of businesses to the better. And they saw that there was something very serious that could be done within the world of this Internet of Things space. Now, what they saw in their analysis was that it was really key that somehow the data from one of these devices, whatever it is able to get to the internet where it can be used. Otherwise, it really can't be as beneficial as could be if it was readily accessible to some application. And so they saw that there really wasn't a simple process for that, that a lot of companies had to build their own internal infrastructure for their own projects, people relying on cell phone companies with expensive data plans, and also somewhat difficult to interface to their own technology to do something along those lines. So these guys got the idea back in 2013 to do something that even today would be considered rather audacious, and that is to build a worldwide peer-to-peer network to basically provide the ability for IoT devices all over the world to very inexpensively, very seamlessly be able to get their data to the internet where it needed to be. And so this was a pretty amazing idea. Now, they used the standard that emerged in the IoT industry, something called LoRa radio. LoRa just stands for long range. It's also known as long-fi, similar to Wi-Fi, but it has a range of about 200 times farther than that. And it uses a radio frequency that's just above FM radio and a nice biological range, biologically safe range. And so basically, the way this whole thing works is these IoT devices are equipped with a device that would encrypt the data. It would broadcast it over this radio frequency to the first nearby LoRa gateway. The gateway would receive that data. The gateway was connected to the internet, and it would pass that data to the internet where it could be accessed. That was the concept. And Helium looked at that and they said, let's do something really unique here. We're going to incentivize people all around the world to participate in building this network by creating our own cryptocurrency token and blockchain by the same name of the company, Helium, with the three-letter code HNT. And they created something called proof of coverage, which is a way of literally creating, or in the vernacular of cryptocurrency, mining helium tokens as a reward for people to help build the network for the nearby IoT devices to be able to use their device to get their data to the internet. And so we'll talk a little bit more about that. But what I want to do right now is just play a short little video that talks a little bit more about IoT and also about iHub.
Do you know who owns your wireless network? Most likely, some ginormous big brand tech company with stacks and stacks of moolah. Well, what if you were able to own part of a similar network, which is growing constantly every day? It's called the Internet of Things, or IoT network. Heard of it? It powers billions of all those helpful things like our beautiful smart devices, life-saving medical sensors, security monitors, remote tracking devices, and the list goes on. So now you know you could help power all that and get paid for it in helium, which is a form of cryptocurrency. You know the digital currency that's super secure because it's kept in an online fortress of solitude called blockchain technology? But you might have known that. And all that happens from this one little device called a Helium Hotspot you can get from iHub Global. All you do is plug it in and start earning or mining helium automatically, which goes directly into your account. Simple as that. You basically earn money by doing practically nothing, so you can afford to spend more time with who's important to you. Earnings vary based on where you live, and iHub will show you simple ways to track how much you earn every day. You can also bring in your family and friends to earn more as an affiliate. And they'll earn too while we build the biggest network in the world together. And eventually, your earnings go even higher and higher with our shared hosting plan. Okay, then why iHub Global, you ask? Because it's free to start. Our mission is growing the network by more of us owning the network. We'll do it together with simple training on the basics. We'll also show you simple earning strategies to grow. By using our proprietary app called Helium Track, you can track your hotspots and run virtual simulations to place free hotspots in the best locations to further expand your network of affiliates and earnings. Who knew owning this network could be so easy? So if you're ready, let's grow together with iHub Global. Join and request a hotspot for your home or office today for free.
All right. So what does the business community think about this idea? Well, the first units that they started taking orders in the summer of 2019 and arriving in December 2019, Time Magazine did their best inventions of the year for 2019 and considered the Helium Hotspot in their best inventions. And they likened it to a miniature cell tower, not because this has anything to do with cell phones, but what they realized was in order for cell phones to be used the way we're used to, it required a massive infrastructure of cell towers to accommodate it. And they saw that this was going to be a new international infrastructure for these IoT network, for this IoT network. And they saw it was going to be a way for people to get into building that infrastructure and receive the kinds of residuals that was possible in cell phones, but without having to have the enormous costs that were involved in that. And with iHub, there's practically zero cost involved in that because with our free deployment program, there's only a nominal shipping and handling fee for people to receive the units based on the Helium track numbers that they're getting when they put in for a reservation. Now, in the cryptocurrency space, Decrypt magazine wrote their first article once Helium started having IoT data move through their network. And in the business community, Fortune magazine wrote their first article once major companies like Nestle and Lime Scooter started using the Helium network as the means to get their IoT data to the network. So why do we want to do this? I mean, really, what's the bottom line? Yeah, this is great for our cities, towns, and communities, unleashing the creative potential of people creating various different applications for IoT devices. But the bottom line is the main driving factor in this is that we receive Helium tokens as a thank you reward for helping to build this network. Now, the amount of tokens that we receive is going to be dependent on how many other units are nearby to where we are, say a half a mile to a mile or so from where we are. And if there's at least 3 units, including yourself, then you can start generating some significant Helium. But the more units in the area that participate in that proof of coverage that we're going to be talking about, the more that you can earn as a result of that. Now, Helium got its start essentially providing a solution for the IoT industry as a whole. And when we were evaluating this incredible business model that Helium had put together, we felt that this would be extraordinary to put together an affiliate program to increase the awareness, the education, the training about building these IoT devices with these Helium hotspots, building this network for the IoT all around the world. But it was important for us to find a way of creating a method where the amount of Helium that was created by one of these hotspots could be distributed into a reward structure. And once we were able to get that put together, we really feel like we nailed it, that we had a passive income generator, that we put together an affiliate program with a very powerful reward structure, something that didn't require people to recruit. But frankly, as you start to realize the scope of this project and how amazing it is, it's pretty hard not to want to reach out to people that you care about and let them know about it. And at the same time, that benefits you as well. And so once you get this device, you hook it up to your power. Now, unlike a Bitcoin miner that uses a ton of electricity, these things only operate at like 5 watts, like a 5-watt LED light bulb. And so it's less than $1 worth of electricity on a monthly basis. And then you hook it up to your internet connection. It doesn't use a lot of your internet. And then these units are designed for security and privacy. So once you get this thing going and it syncs to the Helium blockchain, then you're starting to generate these Helium tokens 24/7, 365. Excuse me. So I want to talk for a little bit about this reward structure that we put together, because when Chuck started sharing with me the idea behind the reward structure that they were kind of homing in on, I was totally amazed by it. Now, I understand that the key to this is really being able to really maximize leverage. And for decades, I referred to this J. Paul Getty quote where he said that he'd rather have 1% of the efforts of 100% of 100 people rather than 100% of his own efforts. Well, Chuck kind of re-engineered that quote, saying that he'd rather have 5, 10, 15% of hundreds or even thousands of hotspots than to only be able to get 100% from his own hotspot. And that's precisely what we put together there. So I want to give you just a little bit of context around this plan without going into a deep dive on it, but just enough so as we go look at a couple of live units, you'll get to understand what that would mean for you if you were the person that referred that individual. So if you decide to put a team together with iHub, first off, there's no cost to becoming an affiliate. And then as you do it, the way it works is The people will come in, we'll use our Helium Track software, which you saw a little bit on the video, where you can send somebody a free virtual mining assessment, or you can send them a link that'll send them to a landing page where they get a little bit of information about iHub, and then they can register, and then they can reserve their own unit. The units that then get deployed are really the ones that are really beginning this whole process. So the way it works is you're really going to be putting together 4 separate teams. The first team is going to be the first 5 people that go through this process that you share this with iHub. The second team is the next 10 after the first 5. The third team is the next 10 as well after that. And then anybody after those original 25 are part of your 4th team. Now, we're going to use an example here where we're going to say that the average unit is generating about 20 helium tokens a month. So let's see what's possible with that. So on that first team, you're able to get up to 20% of those 20 helium tokens. On the second team, it's the same 20%, but an additional very powerful, what we call a 5% coded bonus. On the third team, there's 2 of those 5% coded bonuses. And on the 4th team, there's 3 of them for a total of 35%. So let's take a look at what this represents. So you got 5 people generating 20 helium tokens. 20% of that would bring you 20 helium tokens yourself. Now on the second team, you got 10 people, and 25% of that would be 50 helium tokens. On the third team, you got 30% of those 10 people, that would be 60. And on the 4th team, you can have an unlimited number of people. But just to keep the example consistent, let's say so far you got 10 of them. At 35%, that would be 70 helium tokens for a total of 200 helium tokens that you got for that one 30-day period. But it continues from there for the life of the unit. So right now, helium's about $18. It's kind of been fluctuating a lot over the last week or so. But at $18, that would be representing $3,600 that you got for doing what? For essentially joining iHub as a free affiliate, reaching out to some people that you care about, letting them know about iHub, sending them a mining assessment or a link, having those people get a unit deployed to them, and they're having to basically, do nothing out of pocket except for a nominal shipping and handling fee. And you getting 200 helium tokens, $3,600 a month in the process for doing that. But you know what? It gets better than that, because those 5% codes that I mentioned have a very, very powerful application of what occurs. If any of these 35 people that you reached out to personally, which you totally control what you do, if they start to decide to build their own affiliate team, you can get an additional 5, 10, or 15% on a significant number of people that derive from those original 35 people. And the numbers get to be truly extraordinary. But what I want to do is I want to take a look at some live units, because every Helium hotspot, including our proprietarily programmed iHub miners, are all on the Helium blockchain. They're all publicly accessible, totally transparent. So what I want to do is I want to stop sharing this screen here, and I want to share another screen real quick. This is an application that looks at all the Helium hotspots that exist on the Helium blockchain, and then it plots it on a worldwide map. And if you look at this, you can see that currently there's almost 203,000 Helium hotspots that are deployed around the world. They're primarily in the US and Canada and over in Europe. And then there's a cluster of them over in China, but the rest of them are just kind of spattered about. But the main thrust is in these locations right now. Now, when Chuck and I were first looking at this, back about 13 months ago or so, there was less than 7,000 units in the whole world, essentially, but they were all in the US and Canada, except for just a handful of them. And it wasn't until the fall of 2020, so less than a year, before all these units started showing up over in Europe. Now, we could go ahead and zoom in on this map and look at any one particular hotspot and see precisely what it's doing. But what I want to do is I want to go to a few different locations and kind of analyze that. The first one is over in Vero Beach, Florida. Now, the reason Vero Beach is mainly because Rick Cotton, our CEO, lives in Vero Beach, Florida. But but about 5 months ago, there was not a single helium hotspot there, iHub or otherwise. And he put the original cluster together in Vero Beach, about 6 units to 10 units or so. Now, the way this works is you can only have one unit in a location, not like Bitcoin where you can have a warehouse full of these things. This is designed to provide coverage for the nearby IoT devices. So they need to be separated by at least about 300 meters or around 1,000 feet. And so basically, Rick's unit here is represented by this white dot called the Trendy Tan Duck. Now, every unit's got kind of a fun 3-word name to it, 2 adjectives, the name of an animal. But these other dots with the gold dot with the lines going to them represent what's called witnessing, where his unit is connected via this radio proximity with these other units, and it's witnessing their interactions as part of what they call proof of coverage. And that's what generates significant helium tokens in this process. And over the last 30 days, this Trendy Tan Duck generated 42 helium tokens for about $734. Now, if you were the person that had reached out to this particular person, they got a unit deployed to them. Over the last 30 days, it generated 42 helium tokens. And by the way, this is like double what we used in that example. So you can see that example was fairly conservative. So if you were the person that reached out to this individual, you'd be able to make 20% of what that unit generated. That would be about $149 for just making that introduction. And that was if it was on your first team of your first 5 people. Well, what if it was on your 4th team? If you had 25 people prior to this person in Vero Beach that you reached out to, you'd be making 35% on that, $260 instead. Now, what about the person in Vero Beach themselves that physically is hosting the unit? They'd be able to get 25% of that, which would be $186. Again, just for putting this in their location, hooking it up to their electricity, that 50, 60 cents of electricity on a monthly basis, connecting it to their internet, maybe finding the right window to put it in, or perhaps getting a better antenna. But after that, it's pretty much set it and forget it. Now let's take a look at a couple of other units. These are over in the London, England area. This unit here, the Precise Ceramic Boa, over the last 30 days generated 62 helium tokens with a current exchange value of about $183. Now, why is this one generating more than the one in Vero Beach? Well, a couple of reasons. One is there's a lot more units in London than there are in Vero Beach. There's about 300 units now that have grown from that initial group of 6 units or so that Rick initially put together. But over here in London, you got a lot more units. But more importantly, if you look at the scale on this particular unit, these gold lines that are reaching out from that white dot are pretty far, 10, 20, 30 kilometers. And so that tells me that that unit is at an elevated height above ground level, whether it's on the top of a hill, but more likely on a high-rise building. And so in radio, when you got that extra height, it's able to get that radio signal further. And that's why this unit is reaching out more. So if you were the one that had referred that individual in your first 5 people in that first team, you'd be looking at $219 for making that referral. If it was on your 4th team, you'd be looking at $383. And the person themselves that's hosting the unit could be looking at $275 for basically putting that unit in place. We're going to look at one last one. This one's really an outlier, also in the London area. This unit generated an amazing 129 tokens over the last 30 days. This unit's even reaching out further. But so if you had been the one that referred this individual in your first 5 people, you'd be looking at an extraordinary $455. The person themselves would be looking at $570. And if it was on your 4th team, you'd be looking at $797. Now, these are crazy numbers. And these last 2 are definitely outliers. Again, I put the initial conservative guesstimate of about 20 helium tokens a month. So these are definitely higher than the conservative average on that, but it is possible. So think of who you know that lives in some of these higher elevations, or in a place overlooking a valley where there's a population, that's that you can see from that kind of foothill location overlooking the valley. But let me go ahead and stop sharing here and kind of put this in perspective. So if you are looking at this for the first time or the first few times, and you're scratching your head and you're going, what is this guy talking about? Cryptocurrency, blockchain, proof of coverage, witnessing, all these terms, if that's all new to you, just understand that it was new to me, and it was definitely new to Chuck as well when we first started talking about it. But we had to be able to talk to some people about it. So we had to kind of get a little bit more comfortable being able to explain it. But guess what? You don't need to do that, right? You can just reach out to people, send them that free mining assessment or that free affiliate link. You can send them to a presentation like this live or recorded link to it. And they can make their discernment from just that basic information and that mining assessment and that landing page. So what I recommend doing is, first off, get yourself enrolled in iHub. Get back to the person that invited you to this, get your questions answered. Take a look at, after you enroll, in the support area of the Helium Track software, there is a ton of information, including FAQs and the ability to search for all kinds of answers and trainings, things of that nature. But let me just kind of sort of finish this and give you a little bit of perspective on this. So, we've heard it said many times, I'm sure, that we have a couple of opportunities that come our way in life that are significant life-changing opportunities. The question really is were you prepared to recognize it and take action on it when it came your way? Now, I don't know about you, but I certainly missed a few in my lifetime. And when I saw what this was all about with helium, and then bouncing it past guys like Chuck and Rick and having them, give their feedback on it, it was like, there's no way we're going to let this one go. We're going to let everybody we know have the opportunity to take advantage of this. So get back together with the person that invited you, get your questions answered, and do think about it from this perspective, because we are where we are in life as a function of the decisions that we've taken action on during the course of our lives. And if we want to see a different outcome in our future, it's pretty simple. Just make a new decision and take action on it. And I recommend heartily that decision is to join iHub Global and start sharing this with people that you care about, because I believe over the next 3 to 5 years, as this network is built around the world. And by the way, if you think 202 hotspots is a lot of hotspots, 202,000 hotspots, it's going to take probably estimated 3 million hotspots just in the US alone to cover all the cities that need to be covered in the US. Imagine what that number is going to be for the rest of the world. So again, thank you for your attention. Get back to the people that invited you to this. And then I'm going to pass this back on to Chuck.
Real good. Hey, Michael. So, and guys, like Michael said, all of this could be brand new. I mean, when it was all kind of explained to me the very first time, my eyes kind of glassed over. I really couldn't understand what was going on. And because I didn't understand that there were all these sensors out there in the world that were all connecting to the internet somehow, some way. And what these guys have done, these guys, Helium, is build a better mousetrap, right? A less expensive, more affordable, better mousetrap, instead of using cellular data plans, instead of using Wi-Fi, instead of using all those other methods for these billions of devices, and pretty soon tens of billions of devices, because there's thousands of companies that are building hardware and software specifically for the Internet of Things, because it's going to make our life a whole lot easier, a whole lot simpler, a whole lot more convenient, right, than it already is. And, so I would just encourage you to just kind of pay attention, continue to look at things. But like Michael said, go and get registered for free. There's, no harm, no foul, right? So do that. You also have access to the Helium Track software. There's a little link in there that says helium.app. So you've got access to the Helium Track software, and it is absolutely phenomenal. It was an acquisition that we made in June, and the software gives us the ability, or gives you and me, gives us the ability to put in an address and know instantly whether or not that address is on a scale of 1 to 10, a 2, an 8, or a 10, right? Or somewhere in between. Before it was all guesswork. Now the smart people, which doesn't include me, have figured it out how to do all of that so that we instantly get that information. So it's just mind-boggling what they've done and what they're continuing to do. So, hey, Michael, I always have some questions, and there are probably a lot of questions that are on everybody's mind that's out there, and that is, how safe are these things? I mean, we hear about 5G, and like being inside of a microwave oven, and so are your children going to be born, with two heads or something? I mean, that's always the question, not the two heads part.
Well, I mean, there are a lot of people concerned about some of those microwave spectrum frequencies in the really high gigahertz range that some of the 5G's involved in. But these units, as I mentioned, are just above FM radio, kind of like in the same frequency that the very first wireless phones were. I'm sure you remember those when they first came out. Wireless phones around 900 megahertz. So it's a frequency where there's a lot of activity that's already there. So these units put out only 5 watts of energy. So it's a very, very, very friendly, safe device. And one thing, Chuck, mentioning 5G, because there's a lot of people that are asking questions about helium getting into the 5G space, and what does that portend? And that's an area that we'll have to see how that goes. That's perhaps more in the commercial side of things. But I was listening to the Frank Mung, the COO of Helium, talk about the 5G and the reason that's very interesting. And I learned something that I didn't realize, that there are different types of 5G ranges, kind of like the high range, which is what most people are concerned about, then a mid-range and a low range. And that mid-range is kind of like in the citizens band range, the old CB radios and stuff like that. That's in that range there. And that's the range that these helium hybrid units coming out in the future are talking about being in. So that kind of dissuaded me from being a little bit concerned about, some of these 5G questions that are going out there. It's very, very different than what most people are thinking about when they think of that high frequency microwave type of range.
The other question that I get all the time, Michael, is, you're going to sneak this thing into my house or my business, and then you're going to steal all of my records, my dental implant records, and
I've been trying to do that for years, Chuck.
all of those things that are so important to me. So should I really be concerned about that?
No, these units are very, very very safe and designed for privacy. It's open source. Anybody who really wanted to could go look and see that there's no microphones, there's no video on it. The way these things are designed, it's receiving this data over this radio, the IoT data encrypted through radio, and then it basically uses a direct connection direct to the internet, like a tollway pipe to the internet. It's not interacting with other devices on your network. I mean, it really is safe. I mean, and thinking about that, Chuck, a lot of people say that when you talk to about this, but then again, they go ahead and they got their phones connected to their Wi-Fi, and they go out to the store and they come home and they see all these ads for everything they just finished looking at. So the phone companies are who's selling their data. They're monetizing us tremendously as a result of that. But the helium is completely different. They're really focusing on privacy and security, and it's all about getting this IoT data to the internet. They have no interest in, they're not selling the data. They're not trying to monetize our usage of putting the hotspots in our place of business or homes.
Hey, well, tell me about this free. I mean, everybody loves the word free. I mean, that's what gets everybody's attention, right? It's hard to believe that you guys would give these away for free. So what's the catch?
Well, I mean, here's really when you understand the concept, Chuck. I mean, I'm sure you do. I'm saying that figuratively speaking, because obviously you understand the concept in terms of working with a group of people that are helping us get large numbers of these units, and we're placing them at the profitable helium producing locations, meaning that with our Helium Track software, it's producing a kind of threshold amount of helium that we do a deployment to, and that number will vary based on the number of reservations and the number of units available. But the bottom line is that it's all about producing these helium tokens that we share amongst everybody involved, including the company, including the investors. So what we do is we get those units deployed, and so we put them in those locations. That gives us the control of placing them in the best locations. We talked about this a lot, Chuck. It's not all about having one of these in your own location. It's about how many locations that can you be getting a piece of the action on that you refer to using this software to find the best locations. But we do require a nominal shipping and processing fee. People always want to know, well, what is that going to be? Well, it's really going to be kind of the cost of shipping, which probably in the States is going to be somewhere around $35, $40 or so. And then there's an address assertion that Helium charges, which is like another $15, $20 or so on top of that. So we've been throwing around this $49 US kind of thing, but frankly, it'll be whatever it is based on where the shipping point is and where it's going to. But that's not a big deal considering what the cost of these units are and the ability to get that thing sent to you.
And, I guess if somebody starts to do the math a little bit and, is producing 20 helium a month and helium itself is $20, you can start to do the math, and then you start to do the division of everything. So, okay, I'm in. I get my hotspot. When do we get paid?
Well, I mean, that's the easy part. I mean, the systems have been put in place, Chuck, where the commissions are going out weekly right now.
Okay, so we get paid every week.
Every week.
Every
Clockwork.
week. Okay, like clockwork. All right. Well, I like that. So, anything else that you want to share with everybody before we call it a night?
I just think people really need to kind of get a sense of how extraordinary this opportunity really is. I mean, again, we're talking about millions upon millions of units that are needed over some period of time, 3 years, 5 years, whatever it takes. That's going to be done. And then after that, these guys have a 50-year model they put together. So we're talking 45 years of receiving residual rewards for getting this done, getting this network in place. So it's not like people are going to be out there having to continually do this for the next 50 years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, whatever it is, and it's done. And then how many of these things you're getting a piece of the action for is what's going to make a difference in your life and your family's lives and your kids' lives. I mean, it's really an extraordinary opportunity. And when you think that all this is possible without anybody having to come out of pocket, having to spend a whole bunch of money with the hope that they're going to earn some money, like so many other types of things that we've been, looking at and working with over the last decades, there's nothing at all that even comes close to this. So, I guess it's sort of like, wave a magic wand and this would be the perfect project.
Yeah, Michael, and guys, let me just kind of wrap things up here. We've been on here for almost 40 minutes. It's when we came across this particular product, both Michael and I have been marketing products and services and different goods and things for, together almost collectively 100 years. You wouldn't think that he's that old. I've only been doing it for 10. But anyway, when we saw this product, it was like the Holy Grail, right? It was like, oh my gosh, we found a product that you can put in, don't have to do anything, and it literally will sit there and make money, without any effort on your part. I mean, give me a break. That's the product that we've been looking for those 100 years. And, little did we really know and appreciate. And then the other thing is that it's all transparent. Like Michael said, you can go and look at everything. You don't have to have one of these in your home. It'd be nice, and if you score up on the chart on the helium track, you can get one, but we're going to send, obviously, we have more takers than we have inventory. Now, why is that? We have, a reduced amount of inventory, just like General Motors. General Motors has shut down 4 of their manufacturing plants because they had nowhere else to park cars. And why are they parking cars? They couldn't get the chips. They could all of these cars, a lot of things run on semiconductors, right? And chips. And there's been a massive global chip shortage, which has impacted us, our factories, lots of other industries as well as look at your car lots in your local town. They're empty, right? Maybe you haven't noticed, but they're empty. So we will get inventory at some point in time. The chip shortage will go away. So what we're encouraging people to do is build your team. Right now is the time to build your team, because when the inventory starts, what do you want? You want to get started right then? No, you want to have 1,000 people get started right then and get their hotspot, or you want to have 5,000 people get started and get their hotspot. Not buy. I'm so I'm so programmed to having people buy things. It's almost beyond me saying free, right? It's hard for me to say free, but it is literally free, right? Like Michael said, other than some shipping and handling stuff. I mean, the $5,000 shipping and handling fee will be nothing. Hey guys, we wish we could stay on here for the rest, but I'll tell you what, the good news is that tomorrow night, Tuesday night, Michael and I do a training at this very same location at 9 o'clock East Coast time. And in there, we do actually take some questions on these open, more opportunity presentations. It's a lot more difficult to take questions, but we always leave the chat open. So if you had questions during the presentation, we could filter through and get them. And I responded to a lot of them. So, hey, Michael, thank you very much for doing that. And thanks to the over 300 people that have joined us here this Monday evening on the 27th of September. It's going to be Halloween before you know it. And then it'll be Thanksgiving, Christmas, and New Year's, and we'll roll right into 2022. So hopefully that's when the chip shortage, they say, is going to start breaking loose. So we've got a little while. So the rest of 2021 is going to be kind of tight for inventory. So, but we'll get over it. So with that, Michael, any last words?
No, I just think it's great what you guys have put together. I reached out and brought this to your attention, but you guys were like immediately moving with this thing, finding a way to make it happen. And if it wasn't for that, it wouldn't be here. So thank you very much. Yeah,
thank you. Autumn, thank you. And guys, come and see us tomorrow night. Let's pack the house, get all your team, however many people you have on your team, get them on that Tuesday night training, because they're definitely going to learn something. So with that, good night, everybody. God bless. And just come and see us tomorrow night. See you guys. Good night, everybody.
Bye.